Well, it's good to be back with you for another day as we are continuing on through our Bible study looking at peace. And right there under peace, you'll see that URL, www.christstable.today. Would love for you to visit christstable.today, find out more about who we are, what we do, sign up for our email list there. My name is Kevin Young, and I have the privilege of serving as lead clergy here at Christ Table. Now, if you'd like more information about this study in particular, that is also very easy to find out. All you need to do is go right there, go.christstable.today/peace. There's several helpful resources there for you, absolutely free. One is a list of every day of this study, as well as the readings for that day. There's also a free downloadable PDF there that will give you a guide to each and every day, as well as a question and activity that goes along with that day. Now, I will say that though that is for free, you can get the exact same thing in print if you would like it. This helps us out whenever you get these. And on that page right over there, you can get this by clicking on the button that says Get the Box. In that box will be this printed resource of that PDF, as well as several other things there that will help you walk through this journey. We call that our spiritual resource box, and we send those for free to anybody who is a regular donor to Christ's Table. But you can go ahead and get one even without being a regular donor now, and we encourage you to do that. It helps us and it helps you. One other thing that I want to make sure that you're aware of, if you haven't already heard or haven't gotten yours yet, in fact, this was on sale. I haven't looked to see if it is today, but yesterday it was on sale at Amazon for 20% off, which brings the price down by $5. So if you haven't yet gotten this or want to give it away to some people, then you can go get this by visiting the URL right there in front of me, drkevinyoung.com. This is a great resource and would encourage you to utilize that if you are struggling with your faith journey, doubts, questions, or if you know somebody who is. I'll also say that there's a lot of helpful information in there for people who just kind of want to reignite the momentum in their faith as well. Even if you're not struggling, but you want to take it to the next level, there's some great things in there that will give you ideas of things that you can do, not necessarily to reconstruct your faith, but to reignite the fire underneath your faith. And so drkevinyoung.com is where you can find that resource. Well, today we find ourselves on day 20 of the study. We are back in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. After, about a week or so, I think, ago, we were in an earlier section of this chapter. Now we're at 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 23 and 24, which is right at the very end of the letter here of 1 Thessalonians. And what we are going to find here is we're going to find a prayer. Paul begins the book of 1 Thessalonians with a prayer, Paul being the traditionally understood author of that book, and he ends it with a prayer as well as he writes to this church his first letter in Thessalonica. Now, whenever we come to here, I want to just kind of walk through this because I think that there are many things to see in here, but this is a relatively simple passage, I think, to understand because it is so much prayer-like. So we're not going to find deep doctrine here. What we're going to find here is something that is soothing, I think, comforting to us. Now, may the God of peace make you holy in every way. Bit of a benediction there. And may your whole spirit and soul and body be kept blameless until our Lord Jesus Christ comes again. God will make this happen, for he who calls you is faithful. And I love that he who calls you is faithful line, because faithfulness is very hard to come by. I think in today's world, it is at a premium. People who are faithful to you, it's hard even to find faithfulness in relationships and partnerships and marriages. It's tough. It's also tough to find faithfulness even in friendships anymore. Employers, employees, it's difficult to find faithfulness. It can be a very cutthroat world in business, in career, in education, even in marriage and families. And so I love this idea that God who calls you, who believed in you, who has invested in you, is also faithful. Unlike the potential of so many other people in our lives, in your life, God is faithful. So if we back up, though, a few words from that God who calls you is faithful, we're going to find an attribute that is attached to that God. What is it? Well, if you Look right there, right? God of peace. Now may the God of peace, who is faithful to the calling that he has placed on you, do these things in your life. I love this. Peace and faithfulness. We've tied so many things, right, to peace and the importance of what rolls out of peace, holiness, righteousness. All of these things roll out of or are in context or in connection with peace. And now we see that faithfulness is the same as well. One of the things that we notice, and we've talked about this just a little bit in this series, but I want to kind of wrap back around to this again, is that for Paul and for this kind of New Testament, Jesus forward understanding of peace, it's not merely an absence of conflict. And this is rolling out of the understanding of shalom and peace in the Hebrew text. In Greek, just quite literally, peace is simply an absence of conflict. But what we see here is that the writers and authors of the New Testament are saying, even though the words that we're using here are implying that peace is simply an absence of conflict, we're going to flesh that out and say that that is not fully what's going on here whenever we speak about peace. And so we've seen this, and we need this reminder that peace is not merely an absence of conflict, which is kind of a negative view of peace. It's looking at the negative sides of peace, what it doesn't have. But positively, peace is a state of wholeness and well-being characterized by reconciled relationships. And we see this if we back up here to the verses. May the God of peace make you holy in every way, and may your whole spirit and soul and body be kept blameless until our Lord Jesus Christ comes again. God will make this happen because for he who calls you is faithful to you. And so what we see here in the text is that Paul is saying here, essentially in the Greek, in the way that this is written, that there is reconciliation in relationships that come whenever peace is present, and God is a God of peace. Now, quite literally, the words and the terminology that's being used here as Paul writes this prayer is salvation. That this reconciled relationship is salvation. And it's broader than just God. Obviously, reconcile relationship with God, reconciliation, that is simply another way, tomato, of saying salvation. Reconciliation with God is salvation. But also these reconciled relationships brings salvation, not just between us and God, but also brings salvation, reconciled relationship between us and those around us. And this is the power of the God of peace, and that God shows us reconciliation and what salvation looks like to him, so that we may in turn give that to all of our other relationships surrounding us. So our activity for today on day 20, as we look here in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 23 and 24, is to simply on a piece of paper, or if you have the study guide, to write the word peace in a creative way. Whatever that means to you, however you do that creatively, that is the challenge for today. Maybe perhaps this becomes your prayer for the day. Well, that's all the time that we have. It's been good to be with you today. Looking forward to being back with you tomorrow. Again, if you'd like those study resources, all you need to do is do a visit to that URL right there, go.christstable.today.